listening to the Pohu Experience.
Yo, first thing I want to share is I finally tried that double Big Mac. And I have to say, it is a lot better than I would have ever thought, and I think it is up to the hype, whatever that hype is. I remember a couple of days ago, I was checking out the McDonald's menu from Uber Eats, and the double Big Mac popped up, and I've never seen it before. I don't think we've ever had it here in Taiwan, and it really just got me super curious. First thing is, I'm not even a Big Mac fan. I think I can count on my two hands how many times I've had the Big Mac. I'd always prefer the cheese, chicken or fish burgers, or the quarter pounder. Big Mac was just, even though it's McDonald's flagship burger, I just didn't understand. I don't know what was so great about it. But the double Big Mac, I gotta say, either I haven't had it in way too long or I'm just craving burgers, but that shit was amazing. It was, I will safely say, one of the best burgers I've had in the past year. And not that I've had that many burgers, but there's been a long stretch in my life where I was looking for like the perfect burger and I never found it. And I kind of gave up that dream. But this burger, this double Big Mac totally hits the spot. It's just, I don't know how to explain it. I may be overhyping it. So far, 2023, best burger I've ever had, which I find kind of funny. Out of all places to have burgers, this is the one that I went into having a lot of doubt, but came out just totally, oh my God, this is such a win. I hope they have this on the menu forever. I hope this is not like one of those seasonal menu things, because I don't see myself eating it that often. I'll maybe have it once a week now that I have it so much, and I'll probably get sick of it by, I say, week 4, but I hope that it stays so that, anytime I'm craving for a burger, I'm just a few taps away on my phone and it's on my doorstep in 15 minutes. And one thing that was really surprising to me was the calories. Because remember, a normal Big Mac is like 565 calories. I have that number memorized because I'm always using it as a reference when I'm, talking about calories and all that. But I've never looked up a double Big Mac calorie. So I did that today. Just went on Google. I didn't even use my MyFitnessPal or apps or anything. Just went straight to Google, and Google is telling me it's 767, which means it's roughly 200 calories more than the Big Mac. I gotta say, that's totally worth it. And not only that, it has a good deal of protein. It has 43 grams of protein. So suddenly an item on McDonald's is now eligible to be a decent meal because it's not too over calories. And remember, I'm just talking, you just have the double Big Mac. You don't like order fries. You don't have anything on the side. I mean, you could have your Coke Zero, Diet Coke or whatever, because since it's 0 calories, but just the double Big Mac, consider that one meal. That's totally cool. Calories are totally fine for one meal, being 767. Protein being at 43 is really decent for one meal too. And so, I don't know, I gotta maybe go back into my Carbon app and play around with some numbers. But anyway, today's not about burgers. It's not about calorie counting. Today, there's a different thing I want to talk about altogether. It was on my mind because I've written about this in one of my letters, made a couple of posts about it, some Q&As on it here and there, but I don't think there's a place where I just really run it down and give you a clear-cut breakdown. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about supplements. Supplements for fat loss. Now, before we get ahead of ourselves, I'm going to say in the very, very beginning, there's no such thing as like a fat loss pill, right? There's no such thing as taking this thing will help you lose weight faster, or taking this thing will help you lose more weight, or taking this thing will make your body absorb less fats, or whatever that is. Come on, we've heard of all those stories. There is no such thing. So don't believe in any of these kind of products. They're seriously just draining your wallet and making you think like you have some invincibility pill that if you eat this pill, you could just do whatever you want. You could have, 5 double Big Macs and you'll never gain weight. That's what the pills always try to kind of convince you. And no, that is completely 100% false. So don't fall for fat loss pills. They don't work. None of them work. Like here in Taiwan, we're pretty big on tea. There's like all kinds of tea, right? We have all kinds of like fresh tea, dry tea that you make yourself at home. And in our convenience stores, in our 7-Elevens, there's all kinds of bottled tea. And there's a special category of tea which they call like fat slicing tea. Like supposedly if you drink the tea after a meal, it's going to wash away all the oil and fats that you ate and you pee it all out, and that's how you're going to lose fat. I gotta say, brilliant marketing, brilliant storytelling, but a lot of shit. Gotta give them credit. I used to believe in it. I used to believe in it when I was in my morbidly obese times. Like before I moved back to Taiwan, every time I visited Taiwan, I'd go to 7-Eleven and I'd go buy that tea because I thought, man, so great in Taiwan. You could go to 7-Eleven and buy this tea that helps you lose fat. Man, was I an idiot. So props to them for the whole marketing thing, but 100% full of shit. But then I also have to kind of say that the tea doesn't taste bad. It's kind of nice and it's 0 calories. So I actually still buy it here and there, but not for its fat loss properties, just to kind of have a nostalgia taste on the type of teas I used to drink years back. So the supplements that I want to talk today isn't that. It's just things that you could take along with your fat loss journey or your health journey or your muscle building journey, just things that you can take along with it that can be helpful, not in the process itself, but as in like overall health. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about supplements like whey protein, creatine, multivitamins, fish oils, this kind of supplements. They're fine to take along with your journey. Yeah, they can help with health, but none of these things help you lose fat faster. None of these things help you gain more muscle faster. And also none of these things are like, oh, you take it and you're 100% healthy. There's no magic pill either. It's like a little bonus help. It's as the name calls itself. It's a supplement. It supplements what you're doing primarily. So the main things I want to go through today is actually whey, creatine, multivitamins, and fish oil, right? Just to break each one of them down so you have a good idea of what they can do for you and whether you want to take it or not. Like all of them is optional, and a lot of times I like to share these things because it's just nice to know what options you have out there. Whatever you choose, that's another story, but at least know what's out there. Basically, I just want to expand your toolbox. So let's start with whey. Whey protein, you're probably more familiar with because I talk about it a lot, and it's out there. A lot of people talk about it a lot. And all it is it is a convenient way to hit your proteins, right? Because one scoop of whey is roughly 25 to 35 grams of protein, depending on how big your scooper is and depending on how accurate you're scooping. Like if you have a mounding scoop, yeah, that's probably closer to 35. But if you have like a flat scoop, you're being very accurate with your scoops, that's probably closer to 25. But either way, you could also weigh the grams of your protein to know exactly how much you're drinking. Not a necessity, just an option as well. And a scoop is usually anywhere from 100 to 150 calories. For people that are trying to hit their daily recommended protein, sometimes just having this one scoop of whey makes it way, way easier. And in some cases, when people talk about like meal replacement plans, you could technically use whey protein as a meal replacement because it is a little bit filling, especially if you make it into a smoothie, right? If you make it in some kind of juice form and all that, I mean, be in control, try to control it within like 200-300 calories. Don't go to like 400 or 500 calories because by then you might as well just eat a meal. But 200-300 calories, you want something quick and easy, but hit all your macros and micros. Make a smoothie for that, and it could basically replace a meal for the day if that's what's convenient for you. Like there's this part of convenience with whey protein as well. And so while whey protein doesn't help you lose more fat, what it does is you're consuming more protein, which means when you are losing weight, you're going to be preserving more muscle and losing more fat. And what do I mean by that? Whenever you gain or lose weight, it is both fat and muscle. It is never just one, right? You are never only gaining muscle and zero fat, and you are never losing just fat and no muscle. Like, that's just not how the body works. It's always both, and you have no control over that. It's just how our bodies work. But the thing that you do have control is the ratio of fat and muscle that you lose. So say you eat more protein as you are losing weight, that means you will likely lose more fat and less muscle. So think of it more like instead of a 50-50, 50 fat, 50 muscle, you're losing 60 fat and 40 muscle when you include more protein in your diet. And same goes for if you're gaining weight. If you're gaining weight and including more protein in your diet, you will be gaining more muscle and less fat. The ratio is all that you have control of. And it's not an exact science. Like you can't control the ratio to be exactly 60-40 or 70-30. All you can really do is make sure you're doing the things so the ratio kind of sways one way. And it's never really going to be like, 80-20 or 90-10. It's more closer to 60-40, 70-30 at the most. And so that's what whey protein could help with. Of course, you don't take whey protein. That's also totally fine. Just get your protein from fresh foods. That's fine too. But for convenience as a supplement, if you want to take whey regularly, totally go ahead. And remember, you don't need to be working out. There's no rule where, whey only works when you work out. And, I used to think of this too. I used to think like, oh, well, I'm not working out. I don't need to take whey. It's like, that's completely false. Whey is like a multivitamin. You don't take multivitamins only when you're sick. You can take multivitamins every day, even when you're healthy. It's not medicine. It is a supplement that you could take on your day-to-day life. And so that's whey. And let's move on to creatine. Creatine is probably something you've heard of a lot, and it's likely a lot less marketed to people that are trying to lose weight and a lot more marketed to people that want to gain muscle, because creatine actually does nothing for people that aren't working out. Like if you're not working out at all and your goal right now is just to lose weight, I wouldn't recommend you take creatine because creatine does basically nothing. Creatine, to put it simply, is a supplement that helps you push a little bit harder when you are working out. In other words, give you that little bit more of energy. So let's say you're doing push-ups and you're doing 3 sets of 10, and usually, the 10th one is really, really hard. What creatine creatine could do is maybe help you push for a 11th. Now, because it helps gives you that little bit of boost of energy to push for the 11th, over time, the one extra rep that creatine is helping you push throughout all your workouts, months and years down the line, you will gain more muscle because of that, and creatine is responsible for that gain. Like, does that make sense? Creatine isn't some magic muscle building thing. It's more like an energy booster, if you want to view it that way. And likely it's, if you're taking creatine, you won't really feel it. Like, you're not going to take 3 to 5 grams of creatine and be like, oh my God, my eyes, I can see now. My third eye has been opened, and my arms, the veins, I feel the power. It's not that at all. That's not creatine. That's more towards hard drugs. Creatine is nothing like that. It's just a very, very small and tame kind of energy booster thing that like basically has no harm in you taking it, and it's very, very cheap. Creatine at its simplest form, which is creatine monohydrate, and this is the one that you should get, right? If you're going to get creatine, just get creatine monohydrate, because a lot of companies out there is going to be like, we got this improved formula of creatine. Like, there's no really hard research on those, and there's been thousands of study on just normal creatine. And so stick with the normal one, which is the cheapest one, and that will get you the effect that you're looking for if you're going to take it. I used to take creatine as part of my daily supplements back before I took my workout break, and that was like for 2 years straight. This time back on track, I haven't been taking it, and there's really no excuse other than I'm kind of lazy, and also I'm no longer trying to push as hard as possible. I'm pushing more like trying to get a routine going. So in my mind, I'm going to go back to it eventually, but until my workout weights get into a higher level again, I'll probably just ease into my laziness and put it off until light bulb moment. Okay, it's time to take it again. And so if you're going to take creatine, don't do it for fat loss reasons, do it for muscle gain reasons. And creatine isn't like whey protein, right? It's not like protein where you take it and you lose more fat, preserve more muscle. No such thing. Creatine is literally just like an energy booster. So if you're not in need of extra energy, it's doing nothing. It's not really going to harm you either if you take it, but there's just no point overcomplicating your daily supplements if you really don't have the need to. And if you're going to take it, it's a daily 3 to 5 gram. Like, that's it. That's simple. Don't go above 5 gram a day unless you're preloading, which I wouldn't recommend you preloading because that just overcomplicates it as well. Preloading basically means for 1 week, you take a lot more, like 20 to 30 grams, because it takes some time for the body to get used to the supplemented creatine. One of the ways to do it is to take a higher dose in the first week and then go back to 3 to 5 grams, or the normal preloading phase is actually 1 month. You take 3 to 5 grams for 1 month and your body will adjust to it. You're not going to feel anything. This is just all like the science, the biology behind how everything is working. And I've been on and off of creatine, so I've tried both ways. I honestly don't feel that big of a difference. So just go with 3 to 5 grams every day if you're going to take it, and that's that. Leave it at that. And the next one is multivitamins. So here's the thing about multivitamins. I feel like they're insurance. I feel there's no harm in the majority of people just taking it on a daily basis. The whole point of a multivitamin is obviously it's not to get you all your vitamins. You want to get most of your vitamins from your fresh foods. But then to get most of your vitamins from fresh foods, it means you got to have a really balanced diet. And let's be real, as much as we're all into this diet thing, as much as we're watching for our health, our diet every day is not going to be balanced. There's going to be balanced days. There's going to be days that's not really that balanced. Now, what multivitamin does is on those non-balanced days, it kind of closes the gap. It evens it out. Like, let's say, today was not a very balanced day. You got a lot of vitamin B and C, but you didn't really get much vitamin D. Well, that's where the multivitamin comes in. You get some vitamin D from the multivitamin, or whatever vitamin you're lacking for the day, the multivitamin will kind of soothe and cover you through that day. And then the other question would be, what happens if you overdo it? Like, you have a very balanced diet and you take a multivitamin. What happens then? Well, you kind of just pee it out. And that's why a lot of people argue against multivitamins, is they'll say stuff like, oh, I don't recommend multivitamins because that's just expensive pee. You might as well just eat a balanced meal and you can never take a multivitamin, which I will have to say I agree, but that's like an ideal world. That's like, utopia, like as if every day is going to be freaking perfect. If that's the case, I would do it too. And I got to be honest, I did try that. I did try to have like perfect diet every day. It's just fucking prison, man. It's just not life. When you do that, you don't have room for your birthday cakes and all that. But if you want room for your birthday cakes and make sure your vitamins and minerals are kind of still hit, that's when you take the multivitamin. And so I'd recommend it. Definitely don't rely on it. Don't be like, oh, so I'm taking a multivitamin. I could just eat double Big Macs every single day and, let the multivitamin take care of all the vitamins that are missing. Like, don't do that. Come on, be sensible. You use some of the common sense. You still need to try towards a balanced diet, but the multivitamin could help you kind of widen that margin of error. And there's really not much harm in it. And if you're going to ask like, what brand or what type of multivitamin to get, it's really just any of the big brands out there. Centrium or whatever it is, like as long as it's a brand like worldly known and it's a multivitamin, that's fine. There's no need to go down that rabbit hole too deep. It's especially important like when you are kind of under the weather. Under the weather means your body's fighting something, so it needs all the resources it can get. And perhaps when you're under the weather, your appetite's not that great, so it's hard to keep the balanced diet. Like that's when the multivitamins come in and be a little bit useful and can help where they can help. But of course, it's like insurance. Don't rely on it. Like when you buy insurance in real life, you don't rely on the insurance. The insurance is just to make sure if shit goes down, it's not the end of the world. You have this thing there to kind of cover you and make sure you're still above ground. And so finally, it's the omega-3s, it's the EPA, DHA, or in other words, the fish oil. Technically, you can get all your omega-3s, your EPA, DHAs, you can get it all from fresh foods. That's totally possible, doable, but I did the math. And at least for me, in order to every day hit the omega-3s that I need every day, I would need to eat a certain amount of fish every day. And to me, that's absurd. You know, I love fish. I have nothing wrong with fish, but I like my beef too. I like my chicken, my pork, my lamb, my seafood. I like all these things. I like all these other foods. And when I have those foods, I might not be having my fish. And if I were to have fish every day, it's going to be the same like trying to keep that balanced diet, or I can't. It's imprisoning. It's too much. It's being very, very restrictive in the long run, and I just couldn't see it happening for myself. So I started to take daily fish oil to make sure I'm hitting the omega-3s, EPA, DHAs in my day-to-day life. And that's basically it in terms of supplements during your weight loss, muscle gain, or health journey, or a combination of whatever journey you're on, or, you know, just life. Actually, just for a basic life, I think the supplements that we just went through, whey, creatine, multivitamins, fish oil, I think these have a place in everybody's lives. Of course, this is towards average healthy individual. If you have some special medical conditions or whatever, you probably want to consult your doctor first before taking anything extra. But for the most of us, I think this is it in terms of supplements. Anything else is more individual and preference. I've been taking these for years now. I think 5 to 6 years where it's just a daily basis. And I don't know if I could really say like, oh my God, it changed my life. Like, I don't know. Ever since I started my weight loss journey, I started to get sick a lot less. Also, during my journey, I took 0 supplements. I wasn't into multivitamins and all of that until after I hit my weight goals. But then since my weight loss journey, I was really getting sick a lot less. And then I added on all these supplements after I hit my goals. I think the only time that I really got sick was back last year when the whole family caught the Rona. I really felt it like, okay, I'm sick. But other than that, I've never really gotten more sick than the sniffles or, you know, whatever it was. It just doesn't last more than 48 hours. I don't know if I can attribute that to supplements, but I've seen the science behind it, and I feel this is the least I could do to ensure my own health, and my main goal is health. And so I'm taking it on a regular basis. And I hope breaking it down like this has been helpful. Speaking of experience, there's been a lot of questions in my inbox lately about intermittent fasting, and it's less about like how to do intermittent fasting and the kinks and quirks of it. Weirdly, the questions I'm getting is asking about my experience with it, because I guess I don't really talk about it much, or I never really talked about it in depth before. So I thought I'd share with you my story here then. This is the easiest way for a quick story time. So when I initially started intermittent fasting, I wasn't looking for a diet method because I was already calorie counting, right? I started intermittent fasting around 1 to 2 years after I hit my weight goal. And it was because I was trying to kill my snacking habit. I used to have a really bad snacking habit where I'd somehow find food in between meals. Because I'm calorie counting, I'm really clear on how much I'm eating. So then I think it's okay. And then I just end up eating all this stuff that I don't really care about. Doesn't really bring me much joy. It's just a bad habit. And I wanted to get rid of it. And I thought intermittent fasting would be useful because it's like setting yourself rules. From 6 o'clock to next day, 12 o'clock, you are not allowed to eat. And, you better follow these rules. And that way it's easy for me. So whenever I'm trying to snack on something, I look at the time like, oh, now it's the fasting period. I'm not allowed to eat anything at all. So then it'd be easier for me to convince myself to get over that urge of snacking. I experimented with all kinds of timings, right? Early on, I also experimented with 1 meal a day. And I found that to be really helpful with my snacking because it was basically like, all right, you only get 1 meal a day. Whatever snacks you want during that 1 meal, go for it. Whatever you want. Eat 5 packs of Doritos. Sure, but it has to be within this meal. But within this meal, remember, remember, you still got to hit your proteins, veggies, and whatever else for health, but you also got to fit in all the snacks that you want to eat that you've been craving. I tried that, felt horrible, felt like a zombie. It's just way too much food. It felt really good in the moment. It felt like shit right after. I couldn't hit my veggie protein goals. It's just too much food. It's too much food in one sitting. There's just no way I'm eating all of that in one sitting. So from that experience, I realized I have to at least divide it into 2 meals. 2 meals is a lot more realistic for me, and I don't have to have 2 equal meals, right? I could have a smaller one and a bigger one, because another thing that I always want to satisfy for myself is feeling full. I had this urge before that if I don't feel full in a meal, it doesn't really feel that satisfying. And to feel full would mean the meals need to be bigger. And so it makes no sense for me to have like 3 500 calorie meals for like say 100, 500 calories. It would make more sense for like 750, or maybe, 500 to 1,000. Like that would make me feel a lot better. And so after the OMAD experiment, I started to do 2 meals, and I would do a smaller lunch and a bigger dinner. So it would kind of have the OMAD feel, but not too crazy, which all of it was actually really easy for me, and I didn't suffer at all for it. And here's why I think my experience isn't really that helpful, because I know a lot of people aren't like this. But basically, I never feel hungry in the morning. I don't know why. This is just me. I've experimented a lot with it. I've gone to bed starving, really starving. But the next day when I wake up, I have zero appetite. I'm not hungry at all. I don't feel like eating. And I could always glass towards lunch around like 11 to 1 o'clock, no matter how early I wake up. Even if I'm super starving the night before at midnight, I wake up at 6 a.m., just no longer hungry until like 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. And so when I started to understand that, I realized breakfast is always a wasted meal for me, because I simply don't really want it. I used to have it mostly because of habit, because, society tells you you're supposed to eat first thing in the morning, best meal of the day, with a big thumbs up. And so that's the only reason I was doing breakfast. So when I first started, I also made a math error. I wanted to try the usual 16-8, but for whatever reason, I thought 16-8 meant your last meal is before 6 o'clock and your first meal is 12 o'clock the next day. Well, for whatever reason, I thought that was the right math. That math actually comes out to 18-6. So I ended up kind of doing that for a year or so, and I was really used to it. That gave me a lot of room to experiment to like 24 and 22-2, because on some days where I'm a little bit more busy, I have like meetings here and there, I wouldn't get to my first meal until like 1, 2 o'clock, which that would make it 20, 22 hours of fasting. In my experience, 16, 18, 20, 22 all feel all right. All feel relatively the same. There's really not much fight or resistance in my experience. But when it comes to 24, and I've tried it, there was a couple of times I was getting close to 23 hours fasting, and I was like, why not just, hang in there for 1 more hour and see what 24 hours feels like. Tried it a couple of times. Every single time, couldn't take it. Like by 23 hours plus, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, I'd feel so much hunger. I'd start to feel really tired. All I can think about is food. It just wasn't worth it. It felt so different than, eating at like 20 hours, 18 hours, 16 hours. So after playing around with that, I realized that, okay, I know what my sweet spot is. My sweet spot is literally 18-6, and that would minimize the time that I get to snack around the day. I don't even know when it actually happened, because I've been on IF on and off, because when I start to work out, I'm technically not doing IF anymore, because I'll have whey protein in the morning, but it's just whey protein and water. So technically it's not really like a meal or like I ate anything, but in technical terms for intermittent fasting, that's breaking the fast. Like if you're having any calories, that's breaking the fast. So during the workout periods of my life, I'm usually not on intermittent fasting, but when I'm not working out, intermittent fasting is kind of like my go-to. And I don't know when it was, like the exact moment. I don't know when or how or what happened, but my snacking habit kind of just went away after being on intermittent fasting on and off for 3 to 4 years. Like now, currently, I have no urge to snack at all. I'm pretty satisfied with my meals. I'll try foods here and there like a normal human being, like friends and family could share some stuff with us. I'll still eat that, but I'm no longer looking for Doritos. I'm no longer looking for Snicker bars. And if I ever am, I just have it with one of my meals, but I haven't had that urge in the longest time. And one of the questions about my experience with IF was, did fasting make me feel lack of energy at all? The answer is no. I actually feel really good fasting. And that's why I get it that people think that fasting is some kind of magical thing that will help with like faster weight loss or something because you're not eating. But intermittent fasting makes no sense if you're suffering. If you're suffering, like you don't need to suffer. Why are you suffering when there's all these methods out there that will give you the same results with none of the suffering? And so for me, intermittent fasting wasn't suffering at all. I wasn't heavily craving or hungry during the fasting times. I didn't even feel a lack lack of energy during the fasting times. I actually prefer to work out during the fasting times. I've tried both. I've tried working out during the feeding times and working out during the fasting times. Working out during the feeding times just made me feel very heavy. And I don't know why. Maybe it's because I had a big meal, or I actually have no idea. I can't make sense of it, because technically on paper, it would be better if I worked out after a meal, because that's a lot more energy than working out in a fasted state. But I found myself being much more motivated when working out in a fasted state, being able to push myself, while working out in a fed state, I always feel some kind of lethargy, or just kind of wanting to tap out and more playing the survival game than to play the let's push as hard as we can today game. I don't know why. I didn't deep dive why this happens to me. I just kind of accepted it is what it is. And so IF never gave me any kind of trouble. Like, I felt good. And the number one thing that I've talked about before, what I love about IF is I get so much time in the day. Like, I wake up, the first thing's not breakfast. The first thing is, all right, what's my to-do list today? And let's just get straight at it. Like, I love that. That feels so great. And it's like after dinner, it's also like not thinking about food anymore. Like, if I think about food, do that next day's lunch or next day's dinner. But until, after dinner, until sleeping, there's zero food. And I felt like I just had all this extra time in the day where I'm not trying to figure out what my next meal is. And that felt like a hack. That felt like I got an extra 2-3 hours in a day that was all wasted on something food related. But yeah, I don't really think I had a point to sharing my IF experience, except just to kind of share my experience, and hopefully somewhere in that story help some of you answer the questions you have about intermittent fasting. I mean, feel free to ask if you have something more specific that you want to understand. I'm more than happy to share or help in any way that I can. There's been a drama that I've been contemplating whether I want to talk about it or not. I kind of want to because I've been following it, but I kind of don't want to because I don't want to draw attention to it. I'm going to talk about it anyway. So it's about Hogwarts Legacy. If you don't know what Hogwarts Legacy is, it's basically Harry Potter the game. Harry Potter came out with a game. It feels like a AAA game. It's done really, really well. In the game, you don't play as Harry, but you play as a character in the Harry Potter universe. You're a student going into magic school. There's all kinds of storylines and quests. When I first heard about it, I thought it was just going to be some Spider-Man game, Batman game. It's like, yeah, okay, kind of cool to zip around the city, but not much depth into it. Hogwarts Legacy is not at all. It's very deep and it's done really, really well. I've been watching it because I don't have the time to play it. I've been playing Apex instead, but it's just beautiful. Everything about it is so great. If you really want to compare it, I'd say it's like The Witcher, the game, / Skyrim. It's like a middle of those two, but amazing graphics, amazing voice acting, and everything about it is just totally blew all of my expectations away. And this is coming from somebody that I never watched or read Harry Potter. Like, I've watched some of Harry Potter because mommy's a fan of Harry Potter movies. I don't think she's read the books yet though. And I'm not a big reader. I'm only a manga reader. So, but I acknowledge it's really, really cool. And the game did really, really well. It broke the record of the most streams a single game ever has on Twitch, which was like 1.28 million concurrent streams. Like, that's a huge number. And this is only like the first week it's been out. And so the whole drama is there's been these like activists. And if you're not really on Twitter or Twitch, you probably just never see this. They're really only allowed on these two platforms. But they've been basically bullying anybody that plays this game online and streaming it. And it all stems to something that JK, the creator of Harry Potter, she made a controversial tweet about the trans community, and the trans community weren't happy about it. And now that this game has come out, they're basically attacking anybody that is touching this game, which I find is very unsettling because a lot of people aren't even aware that JK tweeted that thing or of that piece of the drama in the past. They kind of just really love Harry Potter and they're really excited to play the new game. But the harassment has gone so far that a lot of streamers, they quit streaming it because they were getting so much hate and chat. A lot of people bullied into tears because they don't know what they did to deserve all this hate all of a sudden. And it was really just all these anti-JK activists going around as an army and attacking anybody that would talk about or play the game online. Like, there was even a website made where you could type in your favorite streamer's name to see if they've been playing Hogwarts or not. And if they have, then, the army of activists would go and, harass them until they stop playing or completely ruin the day or ruin the channel, whatever it is. And it's just kind of, I want to say, disgusting behavior. Because look, I totally get if if you really believe in something, that everybody should have the right to believe in whatever they want, like that's totally cool. But where it's not cool is where you start punishing others for not believing in what you believe in. That's where the line needs to be drawn. And it just creates this really messed up dichotomy, because the fact is, JK wasn't even that involved in the making of the Harry Potter game. Like, I think her only involvement was to fact check that everything in the game was true to the universe of her books, and that was it. It didn't have much to do with her except the fact that this was the universe that she created. And it feels really weird that people that are just really enjoying the game, enjoying the franchise, being a fan of the franchise, are being punished because of something the author said. It's like, can't we draw the line between product and author? You could enjoy a book and hate the author. It's like you can enjoy great music but hate the person who made it. That's totally fine, but they don't go 2 and 2. Just because you hate somebody doesn't mean they make shit music. They could make amazing music, and you just kind of have to acknowledge it. But then if you're gonna shit on everybody that loves that music because you hate the artist, it's kind of like this weird, I don't know where I'm going with my thoughts. I just thought I wanted to talk about this because it's the headline news this past week. It's pretty messed up, and I'm glad that a lot of people are also trying to speak up and make a stand for themselves. But yeah, it's still ongoing, and I guess I'll share more if there's more development next week. And so it's down to our final segment, which is going to be recipe breakdown. Just as promised, it's going to be on every episode where we just break down some recipes, see where we can minimize the calories, but still have it taste as great as the recipe would be originally without all the changes. I hope the last one was useful. This one, we're going into 4 completely different recipes. Today, we're going to go through pancakes, French toast, fried rice or nasi goreng, and rendang. More local Asian dishes that you could kind of make at home, have your own low-calorie version of it, and enjoy it on a regular basis. So let's start with pancakes, like regular pancakes, not the, banana egg pancake, not the gimmick pancakes. If you enjoy pancakes, they're actually very easy to make at home. They're actually not as high calorie as you think because the ingredients are very simple. So these are the ingredients of one of the top pancake recipes on Google. It has flour, baking powder, sugar, salt, milk and butter, and egg. That's it. Very, very simple ingredients. You probably have all these ingredients at home already. And so where could you make changes to make it a little bit less calories than it already is? Well, let's start with the sugar. The sugar only asks for a tablespoon, which is already very little. Like a tablespoon of sugar is only 50 calories. But if you really want to cut calories, you could always go with a teaspoon instead. 3 teaspoons make a tablespoon. So that's 1/3 calories gone. That means you're closer to 15, 16 calories from the sugar instead of the 50. That helps too. Every little bit helps. And the other part will likely be in the milk and butter. But I know this for a fact. You adjust the milk and butter for pancakes, that is going to affect the texture and taste, just 100%. And I think instead of saying just cut butter and milk in half, you could do that. Or I think you need to experiment around. Try with it half, try with it 60%, 70%, 40%, 30%, and see which texture you enjoy more, really. Because I think there will be a sweet spot somewhere and it's going to be different for everybody. But those are high calorie ingredients that make a very big difference in its taste. So it's not as simple as just cut it out or have it. Let's keep experimenting with different batches, and over time, you'll find a sweet spot that you like. And I think with pancakes, it's a lot less about the pancake itself. The pancake itself isn't that caloric dense, right? Even if you get like pancakes at McDonald's, if you don't put any sauce on it, it's just okay. It's doable calorie-wise. But where you really go overboard is, how much honey do you use or how much maple syrup you use? That's when things might get a little bit out of hand. But you could always still play around with the pancake recipe as well to minimize those calories, and then, minimize the maple syrup that you're using. And you could realize that perhaps a serving of pancake for you that's really yummy and really fulfilling is only like 200 or 300 calories. And that's very little for something that's so, quotation marks, indulgent. And so that's pancakes. And I wanted to do something similar to pancakes, which is French toast. And French toast is a recipe that I learned because kind of like the banana bread recipe, French toast would be something I make where we have leftover bread and it's just getting too long and it's been in the fridge and there's something I got to do about it. And that's when I would make French toast. French toast, I actually haven't made it constantly enough that I have my own recipe. Like every time I'll still go on Google, find a random recipe and make adjustments from there. And so today we're going to do exactly the same. The recipe I found, the ingredients are 2/3 cups of milk, 2 large eggs, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 1/4 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, salt to taste, 6 slices of bread, 1 tablespoon of of unsalted butter or more as needed. So I think the life of French toast lies in the milk. I wouldn't adjust the amount of milk you're using, but you could adjust the type. You could go from, full fat to non-fat, and that makes a big difference already in terms of calories. Other than that, there's not much to change. The 2 large eggs, that's the heart of the dish. Vanilla extract, that's like 0 calories. It's so much flavor. Ground cinnamon, so much flavor, 0 calories. Salt, same thing. Slices of bread is just how big or small your portions are. And finally, it has that 1 tablespoon of unsalted butter. This, I think you can skip because I've made it with and without. I don't think with is that much more like, oh my God, this is so great with the butter. And without the butter, it's just like there's that one thing missing. It's not that. The butter definitely makes it taste better, not to the point where it's hit or miss. So you can definitely take it out. And if you take out that butter, you're saving a lot of calories right there. And you can enjoy French toast quite regularly. Next one is fried rice. And I specifically chose Indonesian fried rice, nasi goreng, because I think it's just something we all can make at home. And it's actually quite easy. If you don't know, it's a little bit different than fried rice from everywhere else because it's the darker kind. It uses the kecap manis, which is the sweet soy sauce. And that's like a really dark color. But it just, I don't know. I kind of grew up with it. So I love it. This is like comfort food for me. And I actually don't make it that often because I just don't make fried rice that often. I usually rather eat white rice. The only ingredient that's more caloric dense is the kecap manis, but it's also the heart of the dish. So I don't really know where you could cut calories from, but never mind. I brought a recipe up and we'll go through it one by one and see in the recipe what are the things that you could adjust. And so Indonesian fried rice, nasi goreng, it starts with the chicken. To cook the chicken, it's 1 tablespoon of oil, 150 grams of chicken breast. I think that's volume. That's just however much chicken breast you want in your dish. 1 tablespoon of the kecap manis, the sweet soy sauce. And the rice is 1.5 tablespoons of oil, 2 garlic cloves, 1 teaspoon red chili, 1 onion, 3 cups of white rice. That's volume and portions. 2 tablespoons of kecap manis, 2 teaspoons of shrimp paste, which they put here. It's optional. Then the garnish or the side servings is 4 eggs, 1 green onion, tomatoes and cucumbers, fried shallots, lime wedges. Actually, looking at all these ingredients, there's really not much to change at all. Everything is relatively low calorie already. I guess all the oil, you could minimize it. And by minimize, I mean like, really even go like 10 to 20% of what they're asking for. Because if you're using a nonstick pan, it really doesn't matter. And it's not going to alter the taste too much. You're not going to be able to taste the amount of oil that you're using. That's not the heart of the fried rice. The kecap manis is asking for like a total of 4 tablespoons, which is not a lot. I guess it's up to taste. If you're going to make this dish for the first time, I guess you could try 4 tablespoons and see how that tastes and minus 1 tablespoon each time. See if you really taste the difference. If you don't taste the difference much, not a big deal. Shrimp paste is something that I've never used with nasi goreng. And I think the ones that I used to eat didn't really have it either. I know for sure that's going to make it taste very different with and without shrimp paste because shrimp paste is so strong. But like shrimp paste is also super minimum in calories. If I'm not mistaken, this is by memory, right? I'm not sure if 1 tablespoon is something like 35 calories because shrimp paste, it's not like oil. It's not something to be that worried about at all. And then the eggs, it's really your choice. Fried shallots, I guess, has some calories, but how much are you going to actually use? The amount you use would probably be very, very little. So I don't think it's a big deal at all. And if you feel it's a big deal, use fresh shallots. That 100% works too with the recipe. So wow, this is actually a first discovery for me too. I never thought of fried rice to be so like calorie friendly. And you could just add all the things that you want, right? You could totally make a personalized version of this, like add more veggies in it or tune the amount of chicken breast and eggs you have to match the amount of protein you want in this dish. Like this is pretty amazing. I mean, wow, fried. Okay, so I'm going to state it here. Indonesian fried rice, nasi goreng, it's a very fat loss friendly dish. You don't even really need to change much from its original recipe and you get to totally enjoy the full flavor of it. Man, I think one of these days I'm going to go and make it. I'm so surprised because I've never broken down the calories like this before and I've never followed a nasi goreng recipe from scratch. I always just kind of freestyle my way into fried rice with whatever's left in the fridge and a leftover rice. But this looks really good. This is promising. I'm shocked. New discovery. Now, this is why I wanted to have recipe breakdown on every episode because it's stuff like this. Without this segment, I wouldn't be looking at these recipes because it's just not something I'd be making on a regular basis. And so the final one is rendang, beef rendang to be exact. What is rendang? Rendang is, I don't know how to explain it. It's a type of sauce that is heavy in coconut milk. It's not really a curry. It's Oh man, I'm going to be the coward and take the easy way out. I think you should just Google rendang, have the explanation and pictures there. Then you'll have a better idea than me trying to explain it to you here because I don't have enough like food vocabulary for that. Yeah, I realized I just take it for granted because I grew up knowing what rendang was. And so I assume people around me knows what it is. But I think unless you've spent some time in Southeast Asia, this is not like a normal dish at all. This is only mostly in Indonesia or Malaysia. But so beef rendang is just basically a beef dish that's very heavily flavored. And all I can say, it's just really, really good. Like, rendang goes with everything. It goes with rice, bread, noodles. It's just a great heavy tasting dish. And so the ingredients are 1.5 pound boneless beef short ribs, 5 tablespoons of cooking oil, 1 stick of cinnamon, 3 cloves, 3 star anise, 3 cardamom pods, 1 lemongrass, 1 cup thick coconut milk, 1 cup water, 2 teaspoons of tamarind pulp, 6 kaffir lime leaves, 6 tablespoons of toasted coconut, 1 tablespoon of sugar, salt to taste. And then for the spice paste recipe, the ingredients are 5 shallots, 1 inch galangal, 3 lemongrass, 5 cloves of garlic, 1 inch ginger, 10 to 12 dried chilies. Okay, so this is just a really spice heavy dish. Most of the things in it, like the cloves, cinnamon, cardamom pods, lemongrass, these things are like, just consider them 0 calories. There's nothing to change there. If you change, likely it will change the taste as well, and there's no need for that because there's no calories. Like, why change the taste? Unless, of course, that's a preference that you have. So the main calories from here looks like it's from the cooking oil and the coconut milk. I'm pretty sure you can get away with cutting both of them down because most of the taste is from the spices. While yes, I know the coconut milk is a very, very important part of the dish, definitely don't cut it out, but I'm pretty sure you can get away with using half or a third. It won't taste as 10 out of 10 as having it 100%, but I'm pretty sure you can get 80-90% by using a third or half. And the other thing to change would be the cut of beef that you're using for the dish. Use a leaner cut, would mean less calories. Beef short ribs tends to be higher in fat, so it would be higher in calories. I mean, technically, you could also use chicken breast for this recipe, right? This is just more of a sauce, and then the meat isn't the main character. The main character is all the spices and the coconut milk together, and then the meat is kind of like the supporting character, which means I think you can get away with using any type of meat that's lean pork, lean lamb. I think that would all work. And if you do that, you would have a very low calorie version of it. Because the thing about rendang is, if you go out and buy it, it will never be low calories. I mean, we've all been there, right? Rendang looks like there's always that layer of oil there. And while it tastes so good, it's also, holy crap, how much am I eating here? I'm not saying that you should fear it, and every time you eat rendang, you got to be like, oh my God, this is so much oil. But that's just the nature of the dish. And while it's okay to have it time to time, or you could even fit it into your diet, I think as it is by itself, it's quite high in calories as compared to the Indonesian fried rice we just went over, which is just by itself not really that high in calories. So there's a lot of changes you can make in rendang, and I'm pretty sure because we don't have to change any of the spices because they're all basically 0 calories anyway, I think you can get a really close to what it's supposed to be taste. Ooh, I'm excited. I'm just super lazy because there's so many parts to it, and there's a lot of the spices that's hard to get here in Taiwan. But if I get my hands on all these, I think I might want to just try this recipe. This sounds really good. It will go really good with rice. I could just get a lean cut of beef, and that will be amazing for protein as well. And that is it for this week's recipe breakdown. This is it for this week's episode. Ever since we started to do this weekly podcast, my weeks have gone by so fast. And I mean that in a really good way. It's like, I really enjoy this. I really enjoy this process because now the podcast is no longer like before where I kind of just turn on the mic and record whatever I have to say. Now it's like fully planned out. I take a day or two just in the planning phase. Like, okay, what am I going to talk about? What are some points I want to make sure I hit? And then some things might crop up, right? Like the Hogwarts thing. It's something I want to talk about, but I also want to make sure I get the story right because I realize that sometimes I don't tell stories fully, and this podcast is kind of good practice for me to be better at storytelling, be better at telling a full story, assuming somebody doesn't know all the context, and how do I boil that down into as little time as possible, but also getting to talk about the things that I care about. And so with all that planning and then now recording, I think so far with all the episodes. The raw file is like 1.5 hours to 2 hours, and I'll cut that down to 30-40 minutes. And then after I'm done with a rough cut, I got to listen back to it again, make sure there's no errors. And then after I'm done listening back to it, I got to listen back to it one more time and put in the chapter timestamps, which is available on YouTube. And it's like, man, it's taking a lot of time, but I really enjoy it. I feel this is such the right move to revive the podcast. And now that we're on episode 7, I can definitely see by the end of this year, we're going to be on episode 55, 56. And I really can't wait. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to this just really being part of my life for, basically forever. And so, yeah, really appreciate it. I'm really, really grateful that you're here listening to me babble on and on and on. I hope it's been helpful, and we'll be back next week. Peace.